The moon hung low over the small, crumbling house at the edge of the village. Inside, the flickering light of a single candle cast eerie shadows across the walls. In the dim glow, a boy named Ethan sat at an old, wooden table, his small hands trembling as he clutched a worn-out piece of paper. His heart ached as he stared at the words he had just written, each sentence heavier than the last. His thoughts were consumed by the same question that had plagued him for days. How can I save my sister? Ethan's little sister, Lily, had been sick for weeks. Her fever had risen to alarming heights, and no matter how many herbs or potions they tried, nothing seemed to work. Their mother, once a strong and capable woman, had been reduced to a shadow of herself, barely able to leave her bed from exhaustion. Their father, lost in the chaos of the past year, had disappeared one evening without a trace. The family, once full of life, had now become a mere echo of what it once was. Ethan knew he couldn't rely on anyone else. The village was poor, and even if they could afford medicine, it was hard to find. He had no choice but to turn to something beyond human reach. Something, or someone, who could work miracles. With shaky hands, Ethan wrote the letter. "Dear God, please help me save my sister. She's so sick, and I don't know how much longer she can survive. I am only a boy, and I have nothing to offer, but I am asking for your mercy. Please give me enough food for her, something that will make her better. She deserves to live. Please. I am desperate." Ethan paused for a moment, staring at the words. Could this letter truly change anything? He didn't know, but he couldn't bear to see Lily suffer any longer. He folded the letter carefully, tucking it into an envelope with no address. It wasn't meant to go anywhere. It was meant to reach someone, something, who could hear his plea. That night, Ethan went to bed with the letter tucked under his pillow, praying that something, anything, would change. But as the hours stretched on, he felt a growing sense of dread. What if nothing happened? What if his prayer was unheard? The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, as if the very world itself was trying to warn him. But Ethan, exhausted and overwhelmed, eventually drifted into a restless sleep, the weight of the world pressing down on his chest. The next morning, the sun rose behind thick clouds, casting an eerie gray light over the village. Ethan awoke to the sound of Lily's weak cough from the other room. He hurried to her side, but when he saw her, his heart sank. She was paler than ever, her breathing shallow and labored. "Lily," Ethan whispered, brushing the hair from her forehead. It was burning with fever, and yet she didn't seem to notice. Her once bright eyes were now clouded and distant. "I'm scared, Ethan," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never felt so helpless. He had to do something. But what? He thought of the letter. He remembered the words he had written and the prayer he had uttered in the silence of the night. Could it really work? Desperation gnawed at him. He took the letter from under his pillow, now slightly crumpled from the night's rest, and held it tightly in his hands. This was his only chance. There was no one else to turn to. But as he looked out the small window, something caught his eye. In the distance, at the edge of the woods, he saw a figure standing in the morning mist. It was a woman draped in a long, dark cloak, her features hidden beneath the hood. She stood still, as though waiting for something, or someone. Ethan's heart raced. He had never seen her before, yet there was something strangely familiar about her presence. As if sensing his gaze, the woman turned, her eyes locking with his for just a moment. Then, she vanished into the mist, as if swallowed by the earth itself. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. Was it a sign? Was this the miracle he had prayed for? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud knock on the door. Ethan rushed to answer it, and standing there, just beyond the threshold, was an elderly man holding a small basket. His clothes were tattered, his face weathered by time, but his eyes sparkled with a strange intensity. "I was sent here to deliver this," the man said, his voice raspy. "A gift for your sister." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Could this be what he had asked for? He opened the basket, revealing several bundles of fresh bread, fruits, and a small vial of something dark and fragrant. The old man smiled, his eyes glinting with an unspoken understanding. God hears all prayers, even the ones spoken in silence. Take this. It may not seem like much, but it's what you need. Before Ethan could respond, the man turned and disappeared into the mist, leaving him standing there with a basket in his hands. It was the strangest thing, yet Ethan couldn't deny the feeling that something beyond his understanding was at play. He rushed back to Lily's side, placing the food in front of her. As she ate, her eyes brightened, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. A warmth filled the room, a sense of peace that Ethan hadn't felt in so long. He watched in awe as his sister's color returned, her fever slowly fading away. Was it the food? Was it the prayer? Or was it something more? The day that followed felt surreal. Lily's health continued to improve at an astonishing rate, and with each passing day, the miracle seemed even more impossible to believe. The food from the basket had given her the strength she needed, but there was something else, something Ethan couldn't quite put his finger on. The village doctor, who had given up hope, couldn't explain the sudden recovery. "It's nothing short of a miracle," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. But Ethan knew. He knew that the letter he had written, the prayer he had whispered, had somehow reached someone. But who had answered it? His mind was filled with questions. The woman in the woods, the mysterious old man. Was there a connection? And why had they appeared when they did? Every part of the story felt like a piece of a puzzle that wasn't quite finished. That evening, as Ethan walked through the woods near the village, trying to clear his thoughts, he came across something strange. The same figure from before, the woman in the cloak, was standing in the clearing, her back to him. "Who are you?" Ethan called out, his voice trembling. The woman turned slowly, revealing her face. She was not old, but ageless, with eyes that seemed to reflect the very stars. Her gaze was warm, but there was a sadness there, too. "I am the answer to your prayer," she said softly, "but not in the way you expected." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "You asked for a miracle, and it was given, but miracles come with a price. The question is, are you willing to pay it?" Before Ethan could respond, she was gone, as quickly as she had appeared, leaving only the lingering scent of something sweet and mysterious. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the woman's words. Miracles come with a price. What did that mean? He had received the miracle he asked for. Lily was better. The hunger in their home had been relieved, and the despair had lifted. But now there was an eerie sense of unease settling into his heart. Over the next few days, Ethan tried to return to a semblance of normal life. Lily was playing outside with the other children, her laughter ringing through the air. Their mother, who had been bedridden for so long, was now sitting at the kitchen table, a glimmer of life returning to her eyes. But something was off. The village seemed quieter than usual, the air heavier, as though something unseen was watching them. And then, late one evening, as Ethan was sitting alone in his room, he heard a soft knock on the door. It was the same old man. His eyes were darker this time, his expression unreadable. "Ethan," the man said, his voice grave, "it's time to make a choice." The weight of his words pressed down on Ethan like a storm cloud. "Choice? What do you mean?" Ethan asked, his voice tight. The man stepped forward, handing him a small, intricately carved box. "You asked for a miracle, and it was given, but nothing comes without a cost. It's time for you to decide. Will you accept the price, or will you give it back?" Ethan's fingers trembled as he took the box, feeling its weight. What was inside? And what was the price of the miracle he had received? The old man's eyes were steady. "The choice is yours, but be warned, some miracles are more dangerous than they appear." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. The box felt like a ticking time bomb, and he knew that whatever was inside would change everything. The next day, Ethan could no longer ignore the weight of the decision before him. Lily, playing in the yard, had no idea of the turmoil swirling inside him. She was safe now, healthy and happy, but at what cost? The words of the old man haunted him. Some miracles are more dangerous than they appear. Ethan stood at the crossroads. The box in his hand seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as though it held the key to something far greater than he could understand. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the village, Ethan made his choice. He opened the box. Inside was a simple, small stone, its surface smooth and glowing with an inner light. It was beautiful, but it felt wrong, as though it was pulsing with a power he didn't fully comprehend. And then he understood. The miracle he had asked for had come at the cost of something far greater than he could have imagined. The stone was not just a gift. It was a tether, a bond between the world of the living and the unknown forces beyond. As the light from the stone grew brighter, Ethan realized that the true price of a miracle wasn't always something you could see. It was something you had to live with, forever,